welcome to the stage Tom and Jemima.
Hi. Hi everyone. Can everyone? First of all, can everyone hear me? Do I look ridiculous?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Good. Okay. Just checking.
There's a couple of seats at the front, so if you, or maybe you can decide if you want to sit down in a minute. But.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming along. If you want to creep down the front here, I'm looking at you guys over there. Come on. No? You haven't got time? Okay. All right. Well, hopefully by the end of today, we're going to make you want to come and sit down by the front. Okay. So, we are this here, and Jemima and I have actually been working together for, I think it's now since sort of 2008. And yeah, we've kind of gone our separate ways at various points, but we sort of have come back together to form this here.
And sometimes we don't know who's going to speak. And also, I need to figure out, do I stand here? Can you hear me? Shall I go closer? That's better. Okay, so I have to do a kind of lean into the mic. Yeah, Tom and I actually met at a really wonderful company called cheapflights.co.uk. Who here's used cheapflights.co.uk? A couple of people in the room, okay. We actually, I'm happy leaning. I've got the stance now, it's okay. No, it's all right, I'll go. Yes, we started doing SEO. So anyone here is an SEO expert, search engine optimization. It's quite a dark art. It's kind of like learning Latin if you want to work on the internet. So it's a good place to start.
And then basically, Jemima ended off going to become head of social at a small company that was called My City Deal, that then got bought by Groupon. And then she found herself as head of social media for the whole of Groupon outside of America.
An accidental career move, quite terrifying. Anyway, so Tom and I, well, we can tell our career story another time. Tom and I eventually rejoined together and set up This Here. And essentially This Here is it's a creative agency fueled by social data. So we like to approach all of our creative ideas with a bit of intelligent data mining or using all of the available information, which now is thankfully very, very plentiful thanks to Twitter and Facebook, etc., and their various data sources. This here essentially sits at the junction of those two places. So typically when we make a suggestion, we try and back it up with some actual reasoning rather than just putting our finger in the air and telling you that something sounds cool. So, without further ado, let's just start the talk.
Yeah, so let's just start with an assumption, and that assumption is that most of you are here because you're either buying for or you're running shops, you're running retail, or perhaps you're designers, but I think for the most part, it's most likely that you are working in retail, whether as a buyer or as an owner or potentially as a designer. And I think, so what we really want to do for you today is to, because we haven't got a huge amount of time, is to really distill everything that we've learned, perhaps over the past year or so, and give you as much as possible that you can actually take away and action immediately. Because quite a lot of you won't have an awful lot of time. Quite a few of you will be running your own businesses, and we'll tend to find that you don't really always have the time to post on Twitter, to post on Instagram, all of these different networks.
Or generally to know exactly what's changing, because we've come a long way. This is actually twitter.com, a screen grab from back in 2000, I'm going to say 6.
Yeah, I think it's 2006,
okay. Yeah. Which is not when I joined, unfortunately. I wish I was there that early, otherwise my handle would be much better. But yeah, no, we're hoping that this is the kind of talk where you can take a lot of notes and actually put them into action today. Or to take your marketing to the next level.
And so I suppose what we are going to be thinking about in particular today is actually how do we attract the right audience into your shop? And yes, this won't be relevant to some of you, but from the specific, I think we can generalize quite well. And really, we want to know how we can do this without taking up all of your time, because no one has really all that much time. Whether you're a retailer or whether you're a national e-commerce giant, you just don't have that time always. So we're going to be giving you really 3 things. We're going to be giving you some tips, some tools, and also some tactics. Good things come in 3s, good things come in T's. I just made that one up. It shows. So yeah, we're going to be giving you some tips, tools, and tactics. So first of all, some tips. And actually, what's probably the most useful is to give you some principles or some sort of rules of thumb, because actually, if you want to take anything away from today, it should really be some sort of principles that you can actually take on board and not have to think about too much. So yeah, rules of thumb. Lovely. Now the first rule of thumb, the first tip that we got for you is about Facebook. Now who here is currently using Facebook as part of their mix, right? Okay. And who here has noticed that the results have been getting worse? Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, so what's been happening is that Facebook have actually started thinking a bit more about what is good for like real people, as in real users, but also what's good for them as an advertising business, and they've been thinking a lot less about what is good for you as a brand. So we've seen them squeeze out, algorithmically squeeze out a lot of brand posts, and this has kind of been quite frustrating for a lot of us who've built up a big following over time. But it is what it is, and we've just got to deal with that new reality, which is that we've now got to really think of Facebook as a paid platform. And that's both good and bad. It's bad because obviously quite a few of you built up a big audience, but in some ways it's good because actually it's allowing for us to target our customers a hell of a lot more relevantly. And we're going to show you a few ways that you can do that later on. And actually, when it comes to paid Facebook, it's actually, when it comes down to it, not that expensive as you might have first thought.
Yeah, another reason it's really useful is that when you're planning your marketing across different channels, quite often you'll think, well, I need to post on Facebook today, or I need to post, let's say, 3 times a day. And a couple of years ago, that may have been true, but it's now no longer the case. So actually, you can do less and achieve more, but you do need to start putting a tiny bit of media spend behind your activity on Facebook if you're going to reach your audience.
Cool. I suppose the next thing is really to say that all of us should probably be focusing a lot more on video. So what I've put up here is social video has gone native, and what this means is that it used to be that you would go on to Facebook or Twitter or perhaps other networks, and you'd have maybe a link off to YouTube. So you'd click on the link, take a while to load up, and probably by that point you'd lose all hope of ever kind of reaching the other side and give up. Now, video has gone native. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well, it's kind of a key one, have actually allowed you to create incredible videos with completely and utterly free tools. And still, so many retailers aren't taking advantage. So we will come across a few tools that we can recommend for how you can sort of take the plunge and start to use video on social.
And it also leaves a question of where does that leave YouTube? Because we all used to use YouTube as essentially the location that we would throw our video up onto. And actually YouTube now is something that's much more like a TV channel. If you're going to be actively, let's say, taking advantage of YouTube properly, you really need to be the sort of individual who's creating content every single day and actually building up a subscriber base, essentially a selection of people who want to follow your videos, specifically just your videos. And if they want to do that, and if you have enough good quality video content, then yes, YouTube is definitely a worthwhile channel to be using. However, because video is now working so well within Twitter, within Facebook natively, you no longer really need to be using YouTube unless it's a dedicated, important channel for you. So that's something to consider.
Wonderful. So the other thing to think about as well, and this is even more true than it was when we spoke at Pulse last year, is that now more than ever, social is increasingly taking place on mobile phone devices. 80%, if not more, of all time spent on social media is done through social, but even more so than before, people are actually using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the rest while they're out, and actually 25% of them are using it actually while they're shopping, while they're in the moment. It can obviously be quite boring to sort of actually look around and engage with your fellow human beings. So people, do tend to sort of walk along the high street a bit more like this these days. And that's an opportunity to reach those people when they're sort of at their most likely to come into your shop. Okay, so those are some tips. And by the way, we'll be able to sort of answer a few questions at the end, so if you've got any questions, just hold tight. Now for some tools. We're not going to sort of go into a huge, giant list of every single app or tool or anything else that's kind of come on the scene, but we do have a few that we've kind of just picked out that we think are really sort of the key ones that are going to help you take things to the next level.
So yeah, when it comes to Facebook, there are lots of different ways of using Facebook. And as a page owner, someone that's running your business page on Facebook, natively using a Facebook page isn't actually as effective as you might think. There's another way of getting much more functionality out of Facebook that involves going through what might seem like a more complex interface, but is actually fairly simple to set up. And the page you go to is business.facebook.com. It essentially lets you upgrade your page to a business page and use a suite of different tools. And actually, it's the same case on Twitter, but Tom will talk about that in a minute. On Facebook, for example, if you navigate through what's called the Facebook Power Editor, so you'll just have to Google that. Actually, we've got a page for you later where you can find all of these links. If you go to the Power Editor, it actually lets you create something called a link post, which you might use naturally if you were to share a link on your Facebook page. Sometimes you're lucky and you get a really nice image that comes up and a nice bit of text that sometimes you can click and edit. However, quite often the image isn't really the image you want, and maybe you want to play around with the text. So if you go to the Power Editor, you can go in and actually, not only can you change the image that is pulled through, you can also select a series of different call to action buttons that go along with your post. So that might be learn more, or it might be shop now. And those can actually drive significantly increase, 3 or 4 times the click-through rate from your post than you would have had if you just were using the native link post that you had before.
And it's also well worth visiting ads.twitter.com. That actually, even if you don't sign up to use ads on Twitter, it gives you some really great analytics tools that will help you understand how well your Twitter channel is performing, and will also give you access to some kind of other features like lead generation tools, which allows you to build your email list. Plus, you can also get an early access to being able to put video direct onto Twitter without having to use your phone. So really powerful stuff.
Nice segue.
Yeah.
So next up, this is a tool called Hyperlapse, which some people I'm sure in this room might be using Hyperlapse. Who's used Hyperlapse at all? Got one, the cameraman, amazing. Okay. I should hope so. And yes, amazing, the man in the front in the blue shirt. So Hyperlapse is an app that was created by Instagram. And it's a free app you can download from the App Store. It's both iOS and Android. And what it does is it has an amazing feature. Well, it has 2 key features. The first one is time-lapse feature. Does this video play? If I play it?
This video, unfortunately, I screwed it up because I'm not very good at video.
I'm in my
it
stance
doesn't
now.
play.
You'll have to imagine a time lapse. So you're imagining the sun going down, that's a time lapse. Or, for example, quite often with hyperlapse, you see people putting their camera to the window of a plane, and you'll see a time lapse of the plane landing quite quickly, sort of in 15 seconds. That's using hyperlapse. And that's if you speed the video up. However, you can choose to record video just at normal speed with no time lapse whatsoever. And what that does, it takes advantage of some incredibly advanced image stabilization. So your video, which you're making with your iPhone 5 or iPhone 6, can actually start to look like the high quality video that this man over here with the camera might have if he'd spent £5,000 on some incredibly complicated gear that creates image stabilization for the video.
Like the kind of steady cams that you see at the side of the rugby or at the football, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And if you're trying to put really engaging videos of products onto Instagram and onto Facebook, what a better way to do it than to, for example, if it's an outfit, put it on a mannequin, fire up hyperlapse and do a little 360-degree walk around of that product. All of a sudden, you've got a perfect 15-second video to go up on Instagram that gives everyone a really nice view of that video, and it looks so pro. Really good.
Now, who actually is using Instagram for their marketing now? Okay, a lot of people. And who's using email? Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah, and who's using MailChimp? Okay, yeah, a lot of the same people in common. So this is another little tool. It's not strictly a social media tool, but this is really, really useful. It's called MailChimp Snap, and what it allows you to do is, let's say you've got an Instagram photo or even a video perhaps that is going wild, that is doing incredibly well. I don't know, perhaps you've got a new range of tableware and the crowd is absolutely loving it. If you kind of see that something's doing incredibly well on Instagram, what you can do is you can create very quickly an email that will pull in your Instagram photo and allow you to send that particular photo, perhaps with a bit of text, to a relevant segment of your newsletter audience. So, you know, for bonus points, if you're really, really clever, you might be able to actually send it to the people who've clicked like on the Instagram photo itself. So really, really quite a powerful little tool, especially for those of you who are using Instagram and MailChimp. And then finally, for the kind of tools section, is Foursquare. Now, Foursquare is actually you talk to a lot of people, especially who work in digital or marketing, and a lot of people are kind of confused. They kind of think, well, Foursquare, that was really hot about 4 or 5 years ago. What is the interest now? No one really uses it anymore. And while that is partially true, what's incredibly powerful about putting your shop, your business, on Foursquare is that actually some of almost every single hot startup, every single hot app that uses location in some way is using Foursquare. So if any of you used Citymapper to get here today, that was using the Foursquare geolocation layer. Okay. If any of you used Uber, again, that taps into Foursquare. There's a whole bunch of other services like Cortana, if any of you have Windows Phone, or Twitter, who are about to actually use it as well. Yeah, and Instagram do use it for now. They may not in the future when Facebook turn off. But it's actually an incredibly powerful place to be on because, first of all, whenever there's that new hot app that comes along, you're instantly in there. So if people want to get to you, or if people want to discover you through a kind of discovery app, then I would definitely head over to business.foursquare.com. You pay, I think, $20 as a one-off fee to get on there. And then you'll get all kinds of stats as well about how many people have come into your shop, what they're writing about you on various review sites, and whether or not they've shared their check-in on Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else.
On a really practical level, it means that if someone's taking a photograph in your shop, they'll be easily able to tag your store name. And also, for example, if using Citymapper or another service, you might be able to click on your business name and immediately see the opening hours and the telephone number and maybe the URL, the website address. So there's lots of different practical reasons as to why it's a really valuable little tool to upgrade to.
Okay, all of these, by the way, all of these kind of tools that we've mentioned, we've got a little URL that you can kind of go to. We will have this URL again at the very, very end if you don't quite have the time to snap it, but well done you two if you've managed to do it. So yeah, we've kind of included some links to quite a few of these tools, so don't worry about having to sort of write them down now. You can kind of look at them later on. Okay, so we've given you some tips, we've given you some tools. Now, if you've got loads of resources, loads of people, loads of money, and you can afford to create a strategy, then come and talk to us afterwards. If you can't, then actually what you need isn't a strategy, it's some tactics, some really, really strong battlefield tactics. And so what we're going to do first of all is talk about some of the upcoming features on the various social networks. Are kind of like you heard it here first, probably, maybe. One of these is actually happening in the US on both Facebook and Twitter, and it's a buy button. But it's not just any old buy button, it's a buy button that allows you to put a post up and with perhaps a product, and without anybody having to come to your website or anything like that, they're able to click the buy button and you will receive an order from Facebook or Twitter, and actually you get all the information, you get payment, you get their delivery address, and actually people don't even have to leave their social network to be able to buy something, which is probably quite powerful if you're a brand. If you're a user, you may find, the next day after you've had a bit of a heavy night out, you may find some strange purchases that you've made, perhaps. Who knows? Thinking more about retail in store, because not all of you will have e-commerce or an online option. For retail, Twitter has actually gone one better, and they've actually got this. I think it's called Twitter Deals, and this is really, really powerful because it allows you to put out there an offer that people can claim in store. So the example that we can't quite make out here is Twitter exclusive $2 cashback at any barista bar location. Claim this offer directly from this tweet. And literally you just click add this offer to your card, and that's your credit card. And then as a user, you then go into a shop and you don't even have to print out a voucher. You don't have to show anything on your phone. You literally just go in and buy the particular thing and you get cash back. And for you guys who are retailers, you're able to measure really accurately the effectiveness of that. So it's an incredibly powerful one that should be launching in the UK at some point later in the year. And then finally, another one that's kind of come up recently, which I feel like I've been talking for a little bit too long, so I'll pass it. Yeah?
Oh, it's like Harry?
Yeah. It is Messenger, Facebook's Messenger app.
So you'll remember last year probably where you were using your Facebook app on your phone, and all of a sudden Facebook told you that you had to download a separate app. Does anyone remember that? So you've now got your Messenger app and your Facebook app, which is slightly annoying, depending on how how many apps you like to have on your phone or how much space you have. However, having done that, they've now kind of gone one step further, well, a couple of steps further. So first of all, if you go to messenger.com, you can actually now access, this isn't necessarily an action for you to follow up, but it's just interesting that Facebook have actually taken over messenger.com as a URL, and you can go there and use all of those messenger features directly in your browser window, which is quite interesting. So you can see they're taking steps towards making Messenger a really kind of standalone feature. And they've actually, even started to enable you to make phone calls within the Messenger app, which is, again, not an action for today, but it's just quite interesting to see that they're really pushing this app so that, in fact, on your phone, if you've got an iPhone and you've got that green phone button, Facebook are trying to take over the green phone button so that you'll actually just use Facebook to make calls. However, more of relevance to today, right, segues, is the fact that Facebook Messenger will actually let itself open up to your systems and services so that you can actually start to do customer service through messenger.com and also send notifications. So, for example, instead of sending an email when someone's delivery has just been dispatched, you could choose instead to send a Facebook message. In an era where open rates on emails are in decline, and also email is becoming so personal that people really don't like to have that infringement constantly from brands and notifications, that actually Facebook's going to become a new way for you to reach your audience.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of what's coming up in the future. For those of you, I don't know, was there anybody who was here at the same session that we did last year at all? A few. Okay, a couple of people, just a few people. We talked quite a lot. We wanted to make it a completely new thing, but last year we talked about various apps for creation, apps for scheduling, which is a really, really important thing, and then also using apps for conversation, because obviously it's really important not just to broadcast to your audience, but actually to engage with them. But actually, one of those apps in particular was, I think, Buffer, there we go, which allows you, it's still very, very useful as a tool, and it allows you to schedule social media posts, and it allows you to do that when your audience is most likely to be online, not when you are most likely to be online, which is very important, because so many brands, they send out their messages when people are at their desks, which actually is not when your audience, when your customers are using social. They're using social on their commute in, on their commute home, at lunchtime, in the evenings, especially if they're using Pinterest. And it is a paid feature, but if you are really heavily into Pinterest, then I'd really recommend getting a paid plan for Buffer, which I think is $10 a month. And it just means that you will now be able to schedule pins on Pinterest as well. One final note on Pinterest, because I know that is a lot more relevant to this audience in particular, looking out at a lot of these products. If you are using Pinterest quite heavily, and I'm going to sound like I'm from Star Wars here, use the source is another little recommendation. What this means is that when you post a photo or an image or an infographic and it's from your shop or from your brand, it's really important to click on edit and just check where it's linking to. Because actually, one of the main ways that people discover and buy things on Pinterest is they click through from your pin. And so actually, if they click through and nothing happens, or if they click through and they get taken off to somebody else's page, you're missing out on an opportunity to either to get them to come into store or to come to your website and make a purchase. So use the source. Great, wonderful. Okay, we're kind of nearly getting towards the end, and because at the very beginning we said how it was so important now to see Facebook as a paid platform, I just thought it might be interesting for all of you to just get a few ideas about some tactics you can use when starting out in doing paid social. So you can kind of see here we've got on Facebook and Twitter, it gets structured around these objectives, like what do you want to do? And so it starts off with stuff like boost your posts, or promote your page, or send people to your website, get installs of your app, reach people near your business. Now that's an interesting one. Raise attendance at your event, get people to claim your offer. Again, quite a kind of interesting one on Facebook. And then down the bottom, get video views. With Twitter, it's a bit simpler, but they are broadly the same. There's just one different one, which is leads on Twitter, which allow you to capture people's emails. Now, one of these ones I just want to warn you off, and that is promoting your page. We said at the beginning that actually it's becoming incredibly difficult to reach the people that have liked your page now, that Facebook is squeezing it out. So therefore, why spend money trying to get more page likes? All that you're really doing is making a little number look a bit more impressive, whereas actually what you really want to be doing is getting people to come into your store and buy your products. So have a little look at some of the other ones, and in particular, it's probably worth looking at location. So Facebook have actually been very quietly introducing loads of little features on your iPhone app, on your Android app, on your Windows Phone app, that actually allow them to track your every move. And there's one in particular which is called Nearby Friends, which actually isn't in the UK, but they launched in the US last year. And it means that wherever you are, you can fire up your phone, and you can see who else is in the area, which is lovely and, you know, great if you're a US college kid and you want to know who else is out at, you know, the local bar. But this has basically allowed Facebook to actually know when people are within a certain radius. I'm not going to judge whether or not this is a good or a bad thing, but what I'm going to tell you is that you can take advantage of this in a good way, not in a bad way. Local awareness ads basically allow businesses to basically put a pin down, to put your address in there, your business's address, and then you can basically scale the catchment area that you want. You can go for a radius of 1 mile or 5 kilometers or even just 200 meters. And you can then add stuff to that. You can only target, I don't know, women aged between 35 and 47 who like handbags. Okay, so you can be really, really targeted with this. And what it allows you to do is combine that with something that's called custom scheduling, which you'll find out in business.facebook.com. And with custom scheduling, you could basically set up at the beginning of the year an ad that just shows to people who have those particular interests when they come within that catchment area between the hours of, I don't know, 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, your business hours. So it's potentially an incredibly powerful ad type, also a little bit scary.
Yeah, on a personal level, you might want to untick that location tracking in your Facebook page.
Cool. Well, I think we've kind of managed to sort of come full circle. So thank you all so very much. And I think it's time, potentially, for some questions. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.